There's this myth that Black people or people of African descent cannot get coronavirus. I have no idea where this notion originated from. There is nothing inherent about us as Black people, Afro Caribbean people, people of African descent, melanated people, like whatever, however we identify ourselves. There's nothing. Diseases. Asthma is actually increased in prevalence in city communities and more densely populated communities. Our children and our adults tend to have more frequent diagnoses of asthma and tend to do worse with these types of conditions. And then other things that we might do habitually. So are you a smoker? Are you a drinker? And then our communities tend to not have immediate access to healthcare. And then on top of that, sometimes we're dealing with healthcare disparities. So are we being taken seriously when we present for medical attention? CDC is always putting out information. The World Health Organization is putting out daily updates. You can tune into these very readily on their social media platforms. They have done a great job of communicating the information that we need to know in lay terms that people can understand, and they're giving a global report. And then you can tune into your city and state, either local health departments or governing bodies who are giving updates online as well. We have to tackle this thing from every point that we can possibly tackle it so that we diminish the spread in our community, so that we can flatten the curve. It's not going to go away quickly, but we all must do our part and really take this thing seriously if we're going to get ahead of it. There's this myth that Black people or people of African descent cannot get coronavirus. I have no idea where this notion originated from. There is nothing inherent about us as Black people, Afro Caribbean people, people of African descent, melanated people, like whatever, however we identify ourselves. There's nothing inherent about us that prevents us from getting this infection. And I know of multiple diseases. Asthma is actually increased in prevalence in city communities and more densely populated communities. Our children and our adults tend to have more frequent diagnoses of asthma and tend to do worse with these types of conditions. And then other things that we might do habitually. So are you a smoker? Are you a drinker? And then our communities tend to not have immediate access to healthcare. And then on top of that, sometimes we're dealing with healthcare disparities. So are we being taken seriously when we present for medical attention? CDC is always putting out information. The World Health Organization is putting out daily updates. You can tune into these very readily on their social media platforms. They have done a great job of communicating the information that we need to know in lay terms that people can understand, and they're giving a global report. And then you can tune into your city and state, either local health departments or governing bodies who are giving updates online as well. We have to tackle this thing from every point that we can possibly tackle it, so that we diminish the spread in our community, so that we can flatten the curve. It's not going to go away quickly, but we all must do our part and really take this thing seriously if we're going to get ahead of it.
Here's how you can make your own face covering in a few easy steps with items you can find around the house, like an old scarf, a bandana or a hand towel, or you can make a face covering out of an old t-shirt. Fold it to the middle from the bottom, fold it to the middle from the top, fold it again to the middle from the bottom, and again from the top, and then 2 rubber bands, one on one side and one on the other side. Then you fold either side to the middle, and you have yourself cloth face covering. It's that easy.
A man stands on the corner in a pair of tattered jeans. In need of a shower and of a shave, he doesn't smell that clean. He's standing in a holy pair of socks, his big toe sticking out. It's 34 degrees. He's holding a cardboard sign that says, "Can you help me, please? Can you hear the cracking?" On the other side of town, a young man named Vincent was just convinced that ain't nobody gonna give you anything. You just take what you need, and if anybody stands in your way, well, you make that brother bleed. See, his girlfriend is 8 months pregnant with a daughter, and he promised that he'd be there for her because he never had a father. Can you hear the cracking and the fracturing? It's 12 o'clock on a Saturday night, and a black mother wakes up because her son has not returned. And even though she knows that it's 2018, it wasn't that long ago that hooded ghosts made wooded crosses burn. So she wakes up, praying that she'll hear the familiar jingle of her son's keys instead of a dreaded knock at the door. But every second that passes, her heart drops to the floor. See, she would rather tuck her son in and watch him sleeping sound than lay her son to rest and bury his body into the ground. Can you hear the cracking and the fracturing and the splitting? You can hear it in the muted cries of the unborn babies as a result of abortion. You can feel it in the workaholic fathers as they chase idolatrous fortunes. It is evidenced by the tissues of the victims of injustice and their tears cried. You can sense it in the silences of the abused sons and daughters as they so desperately try to hide. There was no denying this world that was spoken into existence was broken in just an instant by the persistence and the insistence of that vain serpent whose main purpose was to separate man from God. So no, I don't find it odd that racial tensions are high. People believe that there's freedom in sexual promiscuity. That's not even a new kind of lie. There's this sinful kind of openness, and we even recognize this innate kind of brokenness. So we run to alcohol or relationships or promotions at work, self-help books, and even try to extend the services at the church. But that's like slapping a band-aid on my chest when really my heart is hurting. But praise be to God that He's the ultimate heart surgeon. He said He would exchange our sinful heart of stone for a glorious heart of flesh. So He pours out His Spirit on us when He overcomes death. So all of this cracking and fracturing and shattering just points us to the need for a Messiah. That's the Holy of Holies, the High Priest, the King of Kings, and the Prince of Peace. And His righteousness would separate our sins as far as the west is from the east. And His name is Jesus. His blood is over status, over death, over distinctions and race. So I shout hallelujah when He cried, "It is finished." Now that's Jesus in my place. So when I hear the cracking and the fracturing and the shattering, I'm sad for just a moment, but then I rejoice because I know that all things are being made new. I could try to mend and fix, but there was nothing I could ever do. See, I am being saved by faith, being made into a new creation. So I live my life for Christ, awaiting the day of revelations and the prophecies foretold of Him coming the first time. And the prophecies foretell of Him coming the last time. Where there is fracturing, there will be perfection. Where there is cracking, all things are being made new. And when there is shattering, there will come a day when all sad things are being made untrue. So I will wait patiently. Salah.
There I was, standing shamefully in a courtroom, surrounded by demons on my left and angels on my right. Satan as the persecutor, holding millions of records about my life, and God sitting on a throne with a mighty gavel in His hand. I had no lawyer. Placed on trial for things such as lying, stealing, and fornication. For this was the beginning of my tribulation, for there was no reason to plead an innocent statement, for all the evidence was sitting right there with Satan. The demons smiled as tears rolled down the judge's eyes, for they clearly knew that now was the hour of my demise. But wait. In came a light shining so bright that the demons smiling suddenly jumped with fright. And the man that walked in that night was none other than Jesus Christ. Darkness departed to give way, and glory was all the angels could say, as the man that walked in that night pulled out a lighter and immediately set Satan's records against me on fire. He took the sentence file and erased my name, looked at me in the eyes and said, "Daughter, I'll take the blame." Handcuffs were placed on this man and he was thrown to the ground. The entire courtroom gasped at this horrendous sound, and the sudden seized the beat of his heart. The man that walked in glowing had now become dark. I did this to him. My lying, my stealing, my cheating, and he took the pain and spent 3 days in the hell that I was to go to for eternity. I left the courtroom that day, and there was nothing I could say. I was found innocent, for Christ handled the debt that I was to pay. This type of love is more than you could give to a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. This man died for me. I owe him my life. And even though my life is not at all worth it, how could you ever trade preferent for perfect? See, I gave my life to Christ and suddenly picked up a mop. The lying, cursing, cheating, all that had to stop because my life had been bought. And it'd be a shame to sit there and do nothing but let it rot. I'm not perfect, and the will to sin hasn't completely diminished from my life. But I believe Jesus' words when He died for me on that cross. It is finished.
All right, my brothers and sisters, heirs, joint heirs, adopted, grafted, natural, spiritual. I hope that this broadcast finds you all well, prosperous, I'm glad to be here tonight. I'm very glad to be here. That was Brother Nico Williams, and that was Sister Gloria Amwa, or Umana, Glory Umana, or Umana, however you want to say it. And so I want to thank them for, out of courtesy, allowing us to use those videos. Now they're going to be we're scheduling an interview with both of them independently. We may do it the same night, I don't know, but we're going to get right into this lesson. I'm not going to take up much of your time tonight. I just want to remind you that we do have a prayer line. I don't want to forget to put that in there. Let me let that stroll across. Every Wednesday, every Sabbath morning, Sister Nancy up in New York and Sister Anita, they have established a prayer line. And that's the phone number there. It's, there we go, every Wednesday and every Sabbath morning. Now that is at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. 7 a.m. Eastern Time, 508-924-2928. So I just wanted to bring that in there to you all for that. Now, we're going to get into this lesson. We're going to do a great lesson, and I'm looking forward for this lesson tonight. It's titled, The Power of the Ark and the Power of God. The Ark and the Power of God. I can take these off. I don't need them. The Ark and the Power of God. So we're going to get into this lesson. We're not going to hold you all. I want to try to do things a lot fluid and quick, and because I value your time. Now let me tell you what prompted this lesson. Every now and then we do lessons on feast days, and we do things. But there's so many other lessons that are powerful in the scriptures. And one of the things that prompt this lesson is because you see a lot of people riding around in their vehicles, and they have their Bible placed in their windshield. They have different themes that they put on, as if it could be portrayed as if the power is in the book. The power is in that Bible that's in that front windshield. I've seen people put them in the four corners of their vehicle. They put one in the corner of the right-hand front passenger side, the left-hand front passenger side, the rear right side, the left rear side. And they said, I'm doing that because I want the Lord to protect me. And I'm not saying that something is wrong with that. What I'm simply saying is that is the power in the scriptures, that small Bible, or is the power in God? And we want to address that tonight. We're going to address that in this lesson tonight, dealing with the ark, and we're going to get away with it now. The children of Israel were given commandments. And when they were given commandments, the Almighty wanted to protect them. One of the reasons why he wanted them protected is because when he had first gave them to Moses, God told Moses, you need to get down there, Moses, because the children of Israel are doing something very evil. And I want you to go down there, and I need you to address the situation. And so Moses got down, and he really heard the music. Some of the other elders that came up with him, but they didn't go up all the way. They came down and they said, we hear music. And Moses knew, because God had already told him what was going on. And you all know the story. They were making a calf because they felt like Moses maybe perhaps was gone too long, or They wasn't for sure. Maybe it was just in them, but nonetheless, it vexed God. And Moses came down, and he, in fact, had broke the tablets where God had written the law on tablets by his very own finger. So Moses had to go back up. When Moses went back up, the Almighty told Moses, here, get 2 stones. I'm going to hew you out some more. And he did. And we're going to pick that up over in the book of Deuteronomy, because he tells Moses what to do with it. Again, tonight's lesson is the ark and the power of God. So let's go over here to the Bible and let's read what happened in the book of Deuteronomy. So in the book of Deuteronomy, the 10th chapter, and it says this, and at that time, the Lord said unto me, hew thee 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and come up unto me in the mount, and make thee an ark of wood. Now notice that this is going to be an ark that the Almighty is making for the purpose of putting the agreement, the testimonies in there. Let's read that in verse number 2. And I will write on the tables the words that were in the first tables, which thou breakest, and thou shalt put them in the ark. So we know right now that this ark is going to be a covering, a place, a storage place, a protection for the tables, the words that were written in the first, which were broken. He says, Moses, put those in the ark. And verse 3 says, and I made an ark of shittim wood, and hewn 2 tables of stone like unto the first, and went up into the mountain, having the 2 tables in mine hand. And he wrote on the tables, according to the first writing, the 10 commandments, which the Lord spake unto you in the mount out of the midst of the fire in the day of the assembly. And the Lord gave them unto me. And I turned myself and came down from the mount, and put the tables in the ark which I had made. And there they be, as the Lord commanded me. So you see, brothers and sisters, Moses made the ark as the Almighty told him, and he took the 2 tables, the new ones, because the Almighty had wrote them again, and he told Moses, I want you to go put them inside the Ark of the Covenant. Now, the Ark of the Covenant had rings on each side. 2 rings, and they made staffs, and that's how they carry the ark. In fact, there's a lot of stories written in the Bible about the ark. In fact, in one of the stories, they were carrying it, and one of the men, after having explicit instructions, don't touch it, they thought it was going to fall over, and they reached out, calling themselves to stop it from falling or tilting over, and they touched it and they died right there on the spot, right there on the immediate spot. And so the children of Israel carried the ark every place they went. They carried that ark until they rested. Then they would take it inside and pitch the tent and put it inside of the tabernacle with all of the other artifacts as instructed by the Most High. But in particular, the children of Israel carried this ark, and in fact, they took it before them during special events, especially even when they went out to battle, the ark was taken with them. And so the enemy who worship other gods, being wood and stone and what have you, when they were used to idolatry. But remember, the God of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob is not a figure that can be touched. God is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth. God is a spiritual being. He's the most high. He is the creator of all earth. He is the creator of wood. He is the creator of stone. He's the creator of hard metals, gold, silver, platinum. He's a God. He's a creator of all of that. So you can't create an ark. You can't create a calf. You can't create a statue to replicate and to worship. In fact, one of the commandments is thou shalt not have any other gods before him. In fact, they were told, don't even make graven images or any likeness of anything that is in the heaven above or the earth beneath, and bow down thyself to them and serve them. For I am the Lord your God. But to a nation of heathens who saw the children of Israel carrying the ark and not seeing the visible creator, because you can't see him with the natural eye, it was easily for them to say the power is in the ark. When they would see the children of Israel go to battle, and the ark would go before them, and the ark would carry it, and the trumpets and the priests and the warriors and all of that, and Israel would be winning battle after battle after battle, it's easy for the heathen to say the power is in the ark. And of course, when you're trying to look at Israel as you do other heathen nations, you would automatically put in your mind, where is their power? Who is their God? Who is this God that delivered them from the most powerful nation at that time, being Pharaoh and the Egyptians? Word went out. Word went out abroad. In fact, God had told Pharaoh, or hardened Pharaoh's heart. And when he told Moses, I want you to go tell Pharaoh to let the people go, but let my people go. And he's not going to do it. And I'm going to harden his heart. But you need to go tell him. And I will harden his heart, because I need to demonstrate to him, when I tell you to call upon the various plagues, I need to work through you to demonstrate to this Pharaoh how powerful the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are. So I need you to listen to me, Moses, and follow these specific details, and take Aaron, thy brother, with you. And so they, in fact, went to go see Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said, no, I'm not letting your people go. And you know the story. After many plagues, he told Moses, go tell Pharaoh, tonight is the night. And of course, Pharaoh probably looked at everything like all of the other plagues. His heart was hardened. But that particular night, on the 14th day of Abib, God came through. After the blood was on the doorpost of the children of Israel's doorposts, he had told Moses, you tell the children of Israel, when I see the blood, I will pass over them. And where I don't see the blood, there's going to be a plague, a death angel coming through at midnight, and it's going to destroy everything in the whole region, everything in all the territories, firstborn of both man and beast, cattle, don't matter. If you had a dog named Fifi, no matter how cute it was in Pharaoh's house, and no matter how cute the little kitty cat was in the Egyptians' families' homes, if it was the firstborn, it died. Firstborn of all cattle, all beasts died, because the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob came through. And in fact, a lot of people thought that Moses was a God, because God was working through Moses. In fact, when Moses died, the people of Israel became a little distraught, and he even told Joshua, listen, I'm going to be with you like I was with Pharaoh. In fact, all you have to do is meditate in the word day in and day out, and I will be with you like I was with Moses. Because obedience and the word, that's where the power comes from. That's where your hedge of protection comes from. In fact, God used the ark to demonstrate through specific instructions to Joshua when they were crossing over. He says, I want you to tell them, follow the ark. And when you get to the river, it's going to be a certain way, but you're going to get stones and put them down, and they're going to see. And God was able to demonstrate through Joshua being obedient, and the people realized that God was with Joshua the same way he was with Moses, and the ark continued to be there. And so therefore, nations started to look at this thing, and they said, well, wait a minute, the power is not in Moses, the power is not in the staff, perhaps the power is in the ark. Because this guy Joshua is now the leader, and maybe that's where the power is. And so they started to hone in. Here's another reason why people started to hone in on the ark. Let's go over to Joshua, the 6th chapter. We're going to read Joshua, the 6th chapter. I got the scriptures here, and we're going to go through that. Joshua, the 6th chapter. Let's go look at that and see what the people saw. Joshua, the 6th chapter. Let's take a look at this. Let's read the story. And we need to read it. We're going to read it. We're going to do some reading tonight. We're going to definitely do some reading tonight. And I hope you all are with me. We're going to definitely do some reading tonight. Joshua, the 6th chapter. Now Jericho was straitly shut up because the children of Israel. Jericho was straitly shut up because of the children of Israel. None went out and none came in. And the Lord said unto Joshua, see, I have given into thine hand Jericho, and the king thereof, and the mighty men of valor. And ye shall compass the city, all ye men of war, and go round about the city once. Thus shalt thou do 6 days. Listen to this. And 7 priests shall bear before the ark 7 trumpets of ram's horns. And the 7th day ye shall compass the city 7 times, and the priests shall blow with the trumpets. Now, let's pause for a second. I want you to put your minds and thoughts in those that were behind the walls of Jericho. They see the children of Israel setting up. They don't hear what God is telling Joshua. They're not privy to the specific instructions that are given to Joshua in the order in which they are to do things. They only visually see this ark coming up, and they see the children of Israel marching around. So as we read this, put yourself in the mindset of those behind the walls of Jericho. And it says here in verse 5, and it shall come to pass that when they make a long blast with the ram's horn, and when you hear the sound of the trumpet, all the people shall shout with a great shout, and the wall of the city shall fall down flat, and the people shall ascend up every man straightway before him. And Joshua the son of Nun called the priests and said unto them, I want you to listen to this lineup right here. Take up the ark of the covenant. And we know what was inside of the ark. It was the testimony. It was the tablets. Take up the ark of the covenant, and let 7 priests bear 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord. And he said unto the people, pass on and compass the city, and let him that is armed pass on before the ark of the Lord. And it came to pass, when Joshua had spoken unto the people, that the 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns passed on before the Lord, and blew with the trumpets, and the ark of the covenant of the Lord followed them. Put your minds visually in the eyes of those that are in the walls of Jericho, watching this whole setup. Just like the scriptures keeps talking about the Ark of the Covenant, no doubt I could imagine their hearts and minds were fixed on the ark. And the armed men in verse 9 went before the priests that blew with the trumpets, and the rearward came after the ark, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And Joshua commanded the people, saying, ye should not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout. Then shall ye shout. Now I want to pause for a second, because on the way of learning something, we learn something. Notice when the children of Israel are on one accord, look at what God does. Look at the obedience of the children of Israel in this story. And go back to Abib the 14th. Look at the obedience of the children of Israel. All on one accord, all in one place. All with the same mind. Everybody doing the same thing. Psalms 133:1 says, behold, and how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. In fact, when the children of Israel are being obedient on one accord, they're most powerful. Do we remember when Joshua went into war and they were told, listen, the children of Israel, I believe was the armies, and they were told, said, listen, when you go in, destroy everything. Destroy everything. Don't take nothing out of the camp. Nothing. Don't take nothing. But there was a family, an Achan's family. They went in and they saw a garment, and they saw some silver and some artifacts, and they took it. They just thought, oh man, this is so nice. Disobedient. They took it and they hid it in the floor of his tent. And when the children of Israel went out to battle, they started to lose. And it confused the leaders. They said, wait a minute, something is wrong here. Why are we losing like this? The Most High is with us. In fact, they got the ark. But the power was never in the ark. The power is being obedient to the voice of God. That's where the power is. And so he saw that, call everybody together. And when they learned that Achan had did this, They called out him and all of his family right into the middle, took them outside and stoned everybody. So I want you to look at what happens when you're disobedient. Just one person, that's all. Just one person can cause many things to come upon Israel. Just one. Just one. And so the children of Israel in this story was very obedient, like they were on the night that they put the blood on the doorposts. Very obedient. Let's go back and look at this. And Joshua commanded the people in verse 10, ye shall not shout, nor make any noise with your voice, neither shall any word proceed out of your mouth until the day I bid you shout, then shall ye shout. So the ark of the Lord compassed the city, going about it once, and they camped into the camp and lodged in the camp. And Joshua rose early in the morning, and the priests took up, here it is again, the ark of the Lord. I want you to look at those behind the walls of Jericho. Because remember, verse 1, I'm sorry about that. Verse 1, let's go back and look at what that said. Verse 1 was very clear. Look at that. Verse 1 says, now Jericho was straitly shut up. Why? Because of the children of Israel. Nobody went in, and guess what? Nobody went out. Isn't that something? And because of that, the walls were straitly shut up. Look at verse number, as we continue to pick this up. So in verse 12, so Joshua rose up early in the morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord, and 7 priests bearing the 7 trumpets of ram's horns before the ark of the Lord went on continually and blew with the trumpets, and the armed men went before them, but the rearward came after the ark of the Lord, the priests going on and blowing with the trumpets. And the second day they compassed the city once and returned into the camp. So they did 6 days. And it came to pass on the 7th day that they rose up early about the dawning of the day and compassed the city after the same manner 7 times. Only on that day they compassed the city 7 times. Again, the people behind the walls, they think the power is in the ark. And it came to pass at the 7th time, when the priests blew with the trumpets, Joshua said unto the people, shout, for the Lord hath given you the city, and the city shall be a curse, even it, even all that are therein. To the Lord only Rahab the harlot shall live, she and all that are with her in the house, because she hid the messengers that we sent in. And ye, in any wise, keep yourselves from the accursed thing, lest ye make yourselves a curse when ye take of the accursed thing, and make the camp of Israel a curse, and trouble it. But all the silver and gold, vessels of brass and iron, are consecrated unto the Lord. They should come into the treasury of the Lord. So the people shouted when the priests blew with the trumpets, and it came to pass, when the people heard the sound of the trumpet, and the people shouted with a great shout, that the wall fell down flat, so that the people went up into the city, every man straight before him, and they took the city, and utterly destroyed all that was in the city, both man and women, young and old, ox, sheep, ass, with the edge of the sword, including Fifi the dog running around, the cute little chihuahua. Had to add that in there. But Joshua had said unto the two men that had spied out the country, Go into the harlot's house, and bring out thence the woman, and all that she hath, as ye swear unto her. And the young men that were spies went in and brought out Rahab, and her father, and her mother, and her brother, and all that she had. And they brought all her kindred, and left them without the camp of Israel. And they burnt the city with fire, and all that was therein. Only the silver and the gold and the vessels of brass, of iron, they put into the treasury of the house of the Lord. Joshua saved Rahab the harlot alive, and her father's household, and all that she had. And she dwelt in Israel even unto this day, because she hid the messengers which Joshua sent to spy out in Jericho. And Joshua adjured them at that time, saying, Cursed be the man before the Lord that riseth up and built this city Jericho. He shall lay down the foundation thereof in his firstborn, and in his youngest son shall he set up the gates of it. So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame, listen to this, and his fame was noised throughout all the country. Brothers and sisters, we're talking about the ark and the power of God. But I want you to look at that last verse that we read. Noise went out. Noise went out. Through every heathen land, to every country. Man, the children of Israel, they have a God, and they probably thought, because again, they were heathens. They were people who just had to have something physical to worship God. They had to have a stone. They had to have a wood. They had to have a carving. They had to have something when they dealt with their God. So I could imagine seeing the Ark of that covenant. They thought the power was in the Ark. So you can start to imagine right now people starting to say, the power is in the Ark. Maybe we should get a hold of the Ark. If we can get the ark, maybe the power will be with us. As we continue this lesson, let's go over to the book of 1 Samuel. The book of 1 Samuel. 1 Samuel. We're going to do some reading tonight, brothers and sisters. We're going to do some reading tonight. Sometimes we just have to read. 1 Samuel. The 4th chapter. That's where we're going to go at tonight. 1 Samuel, the 4th chapter. Thank all of you all for coming inside the chat room. Tonight we're talking about the ark and the power of God. The ark and the power of God. That's what we're talking about tonight. In fact, if you're here, you like this lesson, don't forget to hit the like button. So let's pick this up. Let's go back to our scripture. And we are talking about how nations that are heathen have idols. And so when they see the children of Israel fighting this battle, such as this battle of Jericho, when the walls came tumbling down, the scripture says a noise went abroad about Joshua and Israel. A fame went out. But let's go and look at this scripture in the book of Joshua, the book of 1 Samuel, the book of 1 Samuel. Let's read this. Let's read this story. We're going to do some reading tonight. And the word of Samuel came to all Israel. Now Israel went out against the Philistines to battle and pitched beside Ebenezer. And the Philistines pitched in Aphek. And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel. And when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines. And they slew of the army in the field about 4,000 men. And when the children were coming to the camp, the elders of Israel said, "Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines?" Check this out, people. "Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our armies." Wow. Wow. I want you to look at verse 3 again. "And when the people were coming to the camp, the elders of Israel," the elders said, "Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may," talking about the ark, "may save us out of the hand of the Philistines." See, this is like when people take the Bible and they put it in the windshield in the front and the back and say, "This is going to protect me when I drive." Israel still does this today. And so the elders, instead of saying, "Let us pray to the Most High God, let's go on a fast, let us pray, let us call the elders in and let us pray to the Most High God," what they said, "Let us go get the ark. Let us go get the ark," as if they started to look at this thing maybe perhaps like the other nations started to see it. That the power was in the ark, and the power was not in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Could it be that maybe people forgot? Could it be Israel forgotten? Have we forgotten today that the power is not in something that you wear around your neck? The power is not in the oil that you pray with people on. The power is not in the Bible that you put in the front and back windshield. The power is with the Most High. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with using oil when you pray. I do that. But I also make people know assuredly that according to your faith in the Most High God, you will be healed. It's not in the hands of a faith healer. It's not in the power of somebody laying hands. Oh, that's just the formality of what we do when we pray. But the power is in your faith in the Most High God. But look at what the children of Israel did. The elders, the ones that should know better, look at what they did when they started to lose battles. Let's go back and look at that again. "And the Philistines put themselves in array against Israel," verse number 2. "And when they joined battle, Israel was smitten before the Philistines, and they slew of the army in the field 4,000 men. And when the people were coming to the camp, the elders of Israel said, Wherefore hath the Lord smitten us today before the Philistines? Let us fetch the ark of the covenant of the Lord out of Shiloh unto us, that when it cometh among us, it may save us out of the hand of our enemies." So the people sent to Shiloh, that they might bring from thence the ark of the covenant of the Lord of hosts, which dwelled between the cherubims. And the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. And when the ark of the covenant of the Lord came into the camp, all of Israel, listen to this, all of Israel shouted with a great shout, so that the earth rang again. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was coming to the camp. Oh my goodness. So you got the ark that comes in and they bringing it in, and the children of Israel, they begin to hoop and holler and just jump up and down, so that the earth that they was jumping up and down, it began to ring so much that the Philistines says, what's going on with that noise down over there? What are they doing? What's all the praise about? And they saw that the ark had came into the camp. I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this, brothers and sisters, because the power can never be taken from the Most High. The glory can never be taken from God. Some of you all sometimes say, Pastor, you teaching a good lesson. I love the way you teach. Praises be to the Most High. I can never take the credit for what the Almighty shows me and reveals to me. I can never take the glory. I would never put myself in that position to take the glory. Because all of the glory, all of the honor, all of the praise belongs to the Most High. One of the greatest teachers that I listened to from the Israel of God, Pastor Boy, he always says, don't give me the praise. I brought it to you right out of the book. All you got to do is read the book. I didn't do anything fabulous. I just simply read the book. Because we know better. We know what this Bible says. We know what the scripture says, what happens to people when you take the glory. When you start to take the praise. Oh, no, brothers and sisters. All of the glory, all the power belongs to God. It's not the Bible that you put in the front windshield, in the back windshield window that protects you. Not the one in the dashboard in the back. That's not what protects you when you drive. It's the Most High. It's not the symbols that we wear around our necks. It's the Most High. All glory belongs to Him. Let's go back and pick this up here. Listen to this. Verse 6. And when the Philistines heard the noise of the shout, they said, what meaneth this? What meaneth the noise of this great shout in the camp of the Hebrews? And they understood that the ark of the Lord was coming to the camp. And the Philistines were afraid, for they said, God is coming to the camp. And they said, woe unto us, for there have not been such a thing until this point, heretofore. Woe unto us! Who shall deliver us out of the hand of these mighty gods? Plural. Look how they looking at it. When they said God came into the camp, it's a strong possibility they was talking about the ark, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Why do you say that, Pastor Johnson? Because verse 8 says, woe unto us, who should deliver us out of the hand of these gods? There's only one, brothers and sisters. These are the gods. Listen to what they say. These are the gods that smote the Egyptians with all the plagues in the wilderness. You see how fame had went out? But listen to what they said. Be strong and quit yourselves like men, O ye Philistines, that ye be not servants unto the Hebrews, as they have been to you. Quit yourselves like men and fight. Children of Israel are going to war because their confidence is in the ark in this battle. Their confidence is in the ark, not the Most High. The Philistines convince each other, wait a minute, you don't want to be a servant to them, to those Hebrews, like they are to you. So get yourself together, be men, and go out to battle. go out to battle. Now, I'm going to put myself in the shoes of the Philistines. They said, listen here. Those warriors of Israel don't have no power. The power is in the ark. If we can beat them, we can take the ark. Then we would have the power. Mindset. This is the mindset. And the children of Israel is bringing this mindset to the enemy. He's bringing this mindset to the enemy. Because the enemy is really feeling you're just a man. But your confidence is in the ark. So now the battle today is going to be against man against man. We're going to leave the ark out. We're going to fight you, and then we're going to take what we perceive to be your power. Let's read this. And the Philistines in verse 10 fought, and Israel was smitten. And they fled every man into his tent, and there was a very great slaughter. For there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. 30,000 footmen. Earlier it was 4,000. 4,000 up in this other verse. And they said, let us go and get the ark. After verse 2 and 4,000 failed, they went to go get the ark. They bring the ark and they're hooping and hollering. They didn't pray. They didn't say, Lord, give us the strength. Lord, fight this battle. Lord, be my defender. Lord, send your power. Send your angels to protect us. No. They jumped, ran, and raved when the ark came in the camp. And they said, we losing. Go get the ark. Go get the ark. Go get the ark. I want you to look at this story and look at what's happening here. And because the mindset was not right, they lost 30,000 footmen. 30,000 footmen. And what did the not the children of Israel, what did the Philistines do? We know what the children of Israel did. They went and fled back into the tents. They ran with the tails tucked between their legs. And they ended up losing the ark. The very thing that they put their faith and confidence in. Let's pick this story back up. And the Philistines fought, and Israel was smitten, and they fled every man into his tent. And there was a very great slaughter, for there fell of Israel 30,000 footmen. And look at verse number 11. And the ark of God was taken, and the two sons of Eli, Hophni and Phinehas, were slain. And there ran a man of Benjamin out of the army and came to Shiloh the same day with his clothes rent, with earth upon his head. And when he came, lo, Eli sat upon a seat by the wayside watching, for his heart trembled for the ark of God. Eli realized our covenant agreement is inside of that ark. And when the man came into the city and told it, all the city cried out. And when Eli heard the noise of the crying, he said, what meaneth the noise of this tumult? And the man came in hastily and told Eli. Now Eli was 98 years old, and his eyes were dim that he could not see. And the man said unto Eli, I am he that came out of the army, and I fled today out of the army. And he said, what is there done, my son? What happened? What did you all do? And the messenger answered and said, Israel is fled before the Philistines, and there hath been also a great slaughter among the people. And thy 2 sons also, Hophni and Phinehas, are dead, and the ark of God is taken. And it came to pass, when he made mention of the ark of God, that he fell from off the seat backward by the side of the gate, and his neck brake, and he died. For he was an old man and heavy, and he had judged Israel 40 years. My God, I want you to see the calamity that foolishness can bring upon people. Let me just plug this in here real quick. Because this coronavirus is here, and people are doing all kinds of rituals. I'm sure they are. I'm sure people are doing rituals. I can see people not praying to the Most High. And I'm not talking about believers. I'm talking about other people. I'm talking about non-believers. I'm talking about those that practice these type of witchcraft and things. I'm sure they doing something. Do this, do that. Listen, unintentionally, some people are saying, listen, if you just, if you take some ginger and you mix it with and boil the ginger, and let me tell you, get you some turmeric and then get some lemons and do this. I'm not talking about believers. I'm talking about what other people do. I'm talking about this is what they actually do and say. And when you do that, the corona is not going to come. It won't even cut you. It won't even touch you. There were also some foolish Hebrews who said, we got melanin in our skin. This thing ain't going to touch us. And here we are in coronavirus deaths, the number 1. Out of every 10 people dying of the coronavirus, the latest statistics that I looked at, 7 are you and I. I want you to look at the foolishness that people, Hebrews, can bring upon the camp. Eli, 90 and 8 years old, stood up on his bed. When he heard the bad news, he was heavy. He was a heavy man. He just fell back, broke his neck, and died right there. The Ark of the Covenant is gone. The testimonies that was written by God's own finger is inside the Ark, because somebody made the decision that the power was in the Ark and not in God. So instead of praying to the Most High, going inside of the tabernacle, they went inside of the tabernacle and removed that which they was not supposed to touch. Hebrews. And so here we are. The Ark of the Covenant is gone. The testimonies written by God's own finger, gone. That which he told Moses, I want you to put this in the ark as a witness for the people, gone. Because someone did not realize that the power is not in the ark. The power is in the Most High God. Let's continue to read this. I told you we're going to do some reading tonight. Let me do some less talking and do a little bit more reading. I just had to bring that in there. And his daughter-in-law Phinehas' wife was with child, near to be delivered. And when she heard the tidings that the ark of God was taken, and that her father-in-law and her husband were dead, she bowed herself and travailed, for her pains came upon her. And about that time of her death, the woman that stood by her said unto her, Fear not. In other words, she was pregnant. She was getting ready to have a baby. Fear not, for thou hast borne a son. But she answered not, neither did she regard it. And she named the child Achabad, saying, The glory is departed from Israel, because the ark of God was taken, and because of her father-in-law and her husband. And she said, The glory is departed from Israel, for the ark of God is taken. Let's go to the next chapter. Let's go to the next chapter. We're going to do some reading tonight. Samuel chapter 5, verse 1. Let's pick it up. And the Philistines took the ark of God and brought it from Ebenezer unto Ashdod. And the Philistines took the ark of God, they brought it into the house of Dagon, and set it by Dagon. Now Dagon is a idol god. That's what Dagon is. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morning, because they took this ark and brought it into the god that they had, this house that they had created for Dagon, and they took the ark and they brought it and put it beside it. But look at verse number 3, what happens. And when they of Ashdod arose early on the morrow, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the earth before the ark of the Lord. And they took Dagon and set him in his place again. They thought maybe it fell over, wind blew it over. But check this out in verse number 4. And when they rose early on the morrow morning, behold, Dagon was fallen upon his face to the ground before the ark of the Lord. And the head of Dagon and both the palms of his hands were cut off upon the threshold. Only the stump of Dagon was left to him. So it fell over and it cracked, it broke. Therefore neither the priest of Dagon nor any that come into Dagon's house tread on the thresh floor of Dagon and Ashdod unto this day. Wow. They said, listen, we're not going to deal with Dagon anymore, because he couldn't even stand up upright on his own pedestal in the presence of the ark of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel. So you know what? It's gone. It's gone. It's out of here. But the hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod. I want you to look at verse number 6 again. The hand of the Lord, not the ark, people. Not the ark of the covenant. The hand of the Lord was heavy upon them of Ashdod. And what did he do? He destroyed them and smote them with hemorrhoids, even Ashdod and the coast thereof. And when the men of Ashdod saw that it was so, they said, The ark of the God of Israel shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us, and upon Dagon, our God. So what did they do in verse number 8? They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them, and they and said, What shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? Now they're starting to realize here, it may not be so the ark. Could be the ark the God of Israel. Let's go back and look at that. And when the men of Ashdod, in verse number 7, saw that it was so, they said, the ark of the God of Israel. Well, you can read that a couple of different ways. They could be looking at the ark, which is the God of Israel. And that's the correct way to look at it, because they called it the ark of the God of Israel. Shall not abide with us, for his hand is sore upon us and upon Dagon our God. So what did they do? They sent therefore and gathered all the lords of the Philistines unto them and said, what shall we do with the ark of the God of Israel? Let's get rid of this thing. And they answered, let the ark of the God of Israel be carried about unto Gath. Taken to another city, and they carried the ark of the God of Israel about thither. Verse number 9. And it was so that after they had carried it about, the hand of the Lord was against the city with a very great destruction, and he smote the men of the city, both small and great, and they had hemorrhoids in their secret parts. Imagine how that felt. Therefore, they sent the ark of God to Ekron. And it came to pass, as the ark of God came to Ekron, that the Ekronites cried out, saying, they have brought about the ark of the God of Israel to us to slay us and our people. Oh man, this ain't no gift. They bringing this thing here to get rid of us. So what is it? Because you know why? Everybody heard about Israel. Everybody. Remember we read over there in the book of Joshua, and fame went out. Everybody knows. But again, everybody's thinking, because they are in idolatry, that the power is in the ark instead of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They think the power is in the ark because that's their way of thinking. That's their way of processing things. They look for something tangible. Let's pick this back up. So what did the Ekronites do in verse number 11? So they sent and gathered together all of the lords of the Philistines and said, send away the ark of the God of Israel, and let it go again to his own place, that it slay us not and our people. For there was a deadly destruction throughout all the city. The hand of God, not the ark, the hand of God was very heavy there. So they said, let it go back. Let it go back. And the men that died not were smitten with hemorrhoids, and the cry of the city went up to heaven. Wow. I want you to look at what's happening with the power of God. You got the ark that contains the covenant, but the power is with God. Let's continue to read. Let's go over to our final chapter here. I told y'all we were going to do some reading tonight, but this is our last chapter. This is our last chapter in our lesson tonight. Let's go to 1 Samuel, the 6th chapter. Let's look at this. 1 Samuel, the 6th chapter. And the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. Oh my gosh. See, they don't know what to do with it. Should we keep it? Should we not keep it? I mean, it's got power in it. Can we try to make friends with it? I can imagine what they were thinking. 7 months? And it's giving everybody hemorrhoids? Maybe if we be nice to it. Maybe if we put it in a nice little corner. Maybe if we keep it out of the sun. Maybe, you know what? Maybe if we dance around it. Who knows what they did for 7 months? But you see, when you think that the power is in the symbol, when you think the power is in something tangible, it's hard to let go. I don't want to let it go because I think the power is in it. And we don't want to give it back. Maybe we can negotiate with it. Because we got rid of Dagon. So maybe we can find and make peace with this thing here. 7 months. Men are walking around with hemorrhoids. People walking around with hemorrhoids. Man, let's go back to this. Let's go back and finish reading some of this. So this is what they say. And the ark of the Lord was in the country of the Philistines 7 months. And the Philistines called for the priests and the diviners, or divine, yeah, that's what it is. Those that do that divine witchcraft work, saying, what shall we do to the ark of the Lord? Tell us wherewith we shall send it to his place. Tell us how we should get rid of it. I want you to look at what these people did and how they went about it. And they said, if we send away the ark of the God of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering. Then ye shall be healed. Listen, in other words, they still walking around with hemorrhoids. They want to keep this thing. So they said, let's call in all of our priests. 7 months. We still got hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids is all over. That was like running around like the coronavirus. I bet they probably wish they had the coronavirus instead of hemorrhoids. I never experienced it, but I've heard that it's not something pleasant that you want to deal with for 7 months. So tell us, what should we do with it? How should we get rid of this thing? Because we can't negotiate with it. It's not making peace with us. It's not doing nothing for us, but we got us in hemorrhoid city. So they said in verse 3, if you send away the ark of the God of Israel, send it not empty, but in any wise return him a trespass offering. Then ye shall be healed, and it shall be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. Wow. In other words, if you put something in it, and if you heal, and if it works, it's going to be known to you why his hand is not removed from you. So put something in it. Then said they, what shall be the trespass offering which we shall return to him? They answered, 5 golden hemorrhoids, 5 golden mice, according to the number of the lords of the Philistines. For 1 plague was on you all and on our lords. Now, I want to get this. I want you to get mice, or at least take the gold and make 5 mice out of it. And then, y'all know those hemorrhoids you got? I want you to make the gold look like hemorrhoids. That's how I'm reading this. And that will represent the 5 lords of the Philistines. Now let me bring something to your attention. David, when he went to go fight Goliath, David took 5 stones with him. He only used, and most people, because they don't understand that the Lord back in Judges left 5 nations of the Philistines to try Israel, to prove them whether they would serve him or not, because they are coming up out of the wilderness, and everybody from 20 years old and up had died. So now these 19-year-olds and 18-year-olds, they now 49, 48 years old, except for Joshua and Caleb. And he left 5 nations to prove them. And you all know the story back in Judges when God told them, don't y'all mix with them. Don't let your sons marry their daughters, and don't let your daughters marry their sons, because all you're going to do is go after and follow serving idolatry like they did. And they did. They didn't listen. Just like Israel don't listen today. They didn't listen. They didn't listen. And so what they did was, God got angry and put him in bondage for 8 years until Othniel came over and got him out. And then after Othniel died, they did the same thing. You can read all through Judges. All through Judges. At one point, he put them in bondage for 40 years because they were just the most hard-hearted, stiff-necked, rebellious people, and still are today, that you can ever imagine. Israel. Still today. I shared with y'all the story where they said, listen, nobody go out. We want you to quarantine yourself. We want you to wear a mask. We want you to do this. We want you to do that. And what did Hebrews do? What did Israel do? Whether they know they're Israel or not, they still who they are. They still who they are. You can just look at the DNA. Oh, this don't affect us. We got melanin in our skin. Oh, this don't affect us. This is our 400-year anniversary. We get ready to come out. Hoop-a-rah, hoop-a-rah. We can maybe be delivered. The plague is on them. It ain't on us. Hard-headed. And what happened? The number one in coronavirus deaths. Same DNA, same people, ain't changed a bit. I didn't mean to divert. Let me go back into this. Wherefore you should make images of hemorrhoids and images of your mice that mar the land, and ye shall give glory unto the God of Israel. Peradventure, he will lighten his hand from off you, and from your gods, and from your land. That's what he'll do. That's what he would do for you. But all you got to do right now is to go in there and do this. So let's keep reading. Wherefore then do ye harden your hearts? In other words, don't hesitate. Wherefore then do ye harden your hearts, as the Egyptians and Pharaoh hardened their hearts? When ye had wrought wonderfully among them, did they not let the people go, and they departed? Now therefore make a new cart. Take 2 milch kine, one which there hath come no yoke, and tie the kine to the ark, and bring their calves home from them. Listen to what they said they were going to do. I want you to go get these 2 beasts, and I believe that's going to be oxen. And I want you to go get 2 of them. And they said, this is what you're going to do. Now I want you to make a new cart. I want you to take 2 of them. One which there have come no yoke. In other words, go get one where there has never, because you're going to pull this cart. But I want you to go get one where there's never been a yoke on their neck. And bring and tie the kine to the cart, and bring their calves home from them. Now I want you to get this. I want you to get this. I want you to, the yoke, when you put around the oxen's neck, that's what they're used to. They've been trained for that. And that's how you guide them. That's how you guide them. But I want you to go and get 2 that just had some babies, number 1. So they were females. And I want you to go get 2 that have never had a yoke on their neck. Let's continue to read this. This is what I want you to do. Now, I want you to listen to this story. And take the ark, in verse number 8, and take the ark of the Lord and lay it upon the cart, and put the jewels of gold which ye returned him for a trespass offering in a coffer by the side thereof, and sent it away that it may go. And see, now if it go up by the way of his own coast to Beth Shemesh, then he have done us this great evil. In other words, what you all need to find out, because what you really want to know, you want to know if this is coming from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Is this coming from the results of you all having this ark? So the only way to find out is to let it go, and then you'll know whether it was the source or not. That's what we had read in the earlier verse. That's the only way you're gonna find out. Let it go, and if it and put your trespass offering in it, and you can see whether or not this is going to work or not. And you can see if this was the source of your issue. So what they're doing is they're saying, we're going to make it so evident that if you take these 2 oxen that just had a baby, that's never had a yoke around its neck. So therefore, if they never had a yoke around their neck, in other words, they never poured nothing. They never poured anything before. They never guided anything anywhere. And the reason why we want you to go get the 2 babies, I want you to listen to get the ones that just had babies. I'm going to let you read this so you can figure out why. Check this out. In verse number 10, and the men did so, and took 2 milch kine, and tied them to the cart, and shut up their calves at home. And they laid the ark of the Lord upon the cart, and the coffer with the mice of gold, and the images of their hemorrhoids. And the kine took the straight way to the way of Beth Shemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went. In other words, they look like they done this before, the two oxen, and turned not aside to the right hand or to the left. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Beth Shemesh. Now somebody say, well, why did they leave their calves at home? Because the calves are going to cry. In natural circumstance, when the mother hears their calves crying, they will go to the calves, especially when they want some milk. But here, they left them home, shut up, in the barn. So you can imagine when the mothers are not around, they crying out. But the 2 in verse 12, the 2 kine took the straight way to the way of Beth Shemesh, and went along the highway, lowing as they went, because that's what they do. They lower their heads to get the power, to get the power going. and turn not aside to the right hand or to the left. And in other words, they didn't even stray off the road, brothers and sisters. And the lords of the Philistines went after them unto the border of Beth Shemesh. And they of Beth Shemesh were reaping their wheat harvest in the field. And they lifted up their eyes and saw the ark and rejoiced to see it. And the ark came into the field of Joshua, a Beth Shemite, and stood there where there was a great stone, and they clave the wood of the cart and offered the kine a burnt offering unto the Lord. And the Levites, so now it's back into the hands of Israel, and the Levites took down the ark of the Lord and the coffer that was with it, wherein the jewels of gold were, and put them on the great stone. And the men of Beth Shemesh offered burnt offerings and sacrifices the same day unto the Lord. And when the 5 lords of the Philistines had seen it, they turned to Ekron the same day. And these are the golden hemorrhoids which the Philistines returned for a trespass offering unto the Lord. For Ashdod 1, for Gaza 1, Ashkelon 1, for Gath 1, and Ekron 1. And the golden mice, according to the number of all the cities of the Philistines belonging to the 5 lords, both of fenced cities and of country villages, even unto the great stone of Abel, whereon they set down the ark of the Lord, which stone remaineth unto this day in the field of Joshua the Beth Shemite. And he smote the men of Beth Shemesh, because they had looked into the ark of the Lord. Now they looked inside of it. Wonder what's inside of it. Even he smote of the people 50,010 men, and the people lamented, because the Lord had smitten many of the people with great slaughter. And the men of Beth Shemesh said, who is able to stand before this holy Lord God? In whom shall he go up from us? And they sent messengers to the inhabitants of Kirjath-jearim, saying, the Philistines have brought again the ark of the Lord. Come ye down and fetch it up to you. Brothers and sisters, this is our lesson. The power of God and the Ark of the Covenant. And I thought it would be a great lesson to bring to you all tonight, and that you could just realize that the power is in the Most High God. Your faith in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, the God of Israel, is phenomenal. I don't care who's sick. I don't care who has to go through a courtroom. If you are righteous before the Most High God, he said in his word, no weapon formed against you. He didn't say weapons were not going to form. He just said no weapon formed against you should not prosper. God will bring you out. That's why some call him a doctor in the sick room, lawyer in the courtroom, a mother to the motherless, a father to the fatherless. That's why when Moses said, who shall I send? Say, sent me. He says, tell him I am have sent you. Why I am? Because I am who I need to be. I will be what I need to be when I need to be it. I'll be a bridge over troubled waters. I'll be a help in the time of trouble. I'll be a lawyer in the courtroom. I'll be a doctor in the sick room. I am a father to the fatherless. I am a mother to the motherless. I am the great I am. I am the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am the creator of heaven and earth. Tell him that's who I am. Tell him I am have sent you. I want to thank you all for being with us on this lesson tonight. I want to jump over in the chat room and just say hello. We have quite a few people there. Sister Sheila, how you doing? Sister Nancy, how you doing? While we got Sister Nancy in the chat room, we're going to put out that prayer line that's going to be taking place every Wednesday and Sabbath morning at 7 a.m. Eastern Time. That phone number is 508-924-2928. Sister Lavana, how you doing? Sister Deborah, how you doing? Brother Mark P. Sister Tina, Iria, how you doing? Adrian, how you doing? Sister Marie, Brother Lawrence, how are you? Sister Queen, how you doing? Brother Michael Brown, how you doing? Lester, how you doing? Kenneth, great. 2 Kenneths in the room tonight. How both of you all doing? Sister Veronica, she was one of the first in the chat room tonight. Listen, I want to share with you, this is that's the channel. Our channel is still Pastor Johnson, but I was sharing with people, we're going to be bringing you something where we're getting prepared to come on every night at 8 o'clock. Now, what it will be is there's going to be inspirational thoughts. There's going to be music videos, stuff like that. But we're putting it together. I'll let you know when it's going to roll out. I will break in between. I may do a 15-minute lesson, a 30-minute lesson, somewhere in between of all of that. But this is our brand, Bethel BHG TV. That's Bethel House of God TV. I want to thank all of you all who give to our Patreon account. I want to thank you for making our social media possible. As I shared with last night, everything is changing. You have to get higher tier subscription lessons. It's all working out for the good. I thank the Almighty for you all giving. Where our lights came in, so that's why the lighting is a whole lot better tonight than what you've seen it in the past. And thank you. We're still going to be here, even though we're here Monday through Friday with bringing you some sort of inspirational thought, inspirational lessons, and programming. The programming is going to be people doing testimonies, all like that. Brother JD and I will still be here every Friday night for Bible study. So something else may start at 8. We may come on at 8:30, 8:40, but we still will be doing Bible study, although something else will start you off at 8 o'clock. So that being said, I want to say thank you, all of you, for tuning in. Don't forget to hit the like button. And I'm going to leave you with this nice little thought here. We're going to be bringing Brother Nico and Sister Gloria on. We're going to be doing an interview with them, and we thank them for courtesy allowing us to use the programming that we did earlier. So we're going to leave you these messages, and then we're going to get out of here and let you enjoy the rest of your evening. We didn't take too long. Thank you so much for tuning in, every last one of you. We're going to end with this information on our Cash App is also coming up. You want to download that so you'll know that you can stay closer in touch and you can watch lessons on demand. So be blessing, and we will talk to you soon. Have a great evening. Have a great week. We'll see you later during the week.
Here's how you can make your own face covering in a few easy steps with items you can find around the house, like an old scarf, a bandana or a hand towel, or you can make a face covering out of an old t-shirt. Fold it to the middle from the bottom. Fold it to the middle from the top. Fold it again to the middle from the bottom, and again from the top. And then 2 rubber bands, one on one side and one on the other side. Then you fold either side to the middle, and you have yourself cloth face covering. It's that easy.
man stands on the corner in a pair of tattered jeans. In need of a shower and of a shave, he doesn't smell that clean. He's standing in a holy pair of socks, his big toe sticking out. It's 34 degrees. He's holding a cardboard sign that says, "Can you help me, please? Can you hear the cracking?" On the other side of town, a young man named Vincent was just convinced that ain't nobody gonna give you anything. You just take what you need, and if anybody stands in your way, well, you make that brother bleed. See, his girlfriend is 8 months pregnant with a daughter, and he promised that he'd be there for her because he ain't never had a father. Can you hear the cracking and the fracturing? It's 12 o'clock on a Saturday night, and a black mother wakes up because her son has not returned. And even though she knows that it's 2018, it wasn't that long ago that hooded ghosts made wooded crosses burn. So she wakes up, praying that she'll hear the familiar jingle of her son's keys instead of a dreaded knock at the door. But every second that passes, her heart drops to the floor. See, she would rather tuck her son in and watch him sleeping sound than lay her son to rest and bury his body into the ground. Can you hear the cracking and the fracturing and the splitting? You can hear it in the muted cries of the unborn babies as a result of abortion. You can feel it in the workaholic fathers as they chase idolatrous fortunes. It is evidenced by the tissues of the victims of injustice and their tears cried. You can sense it in the silences of the abused sons and daughters as they so desperately try to hide. There was no denying this world that was spoken into existence was broken in just an instant by the persistence and the insistence of that vain serpent whose main purpose was to separate man from God. So no, I don't find it odd that racial tensions are high. People believe that there's freedom in sexual promiscuity. That's not even a new kind of lie. There's this sinful kind of openness, and we even recognize this innate kind of brokenness. So we run to alcohol or relationships or promotions at work, self-help books, and even try to extend the services at the church. But that's like slapping a band-aid on my chest when really my heart is hurting. But praise be to God that He's the ultimate heart surgeon. He said He would exchange our sinful heart of stone for a glorious heart of flesh. So He pours out His Spirit on us when He overcomes death. So all of this cracking and fracturing and shattering just points us to the need for a Messiah. That's the Holy of Holies, the High Priest, the King of Kings, and the Prince of Peace. And His righteousness would separate our sins as far as the west is from the east. And His name is Jesus. His blood is over status, over death, over distinctions and race. So I shout hallelujah when He cried, "It is finished." Now that's Jesus in my place. So when I hear the cracking and the fracturing and the shattering, I'm sad for just a moment, but then I rejoice because I know that all things are being made new. I could try to mend and fix, but there was nothing I could ever do. See, I am being saved by faith, being made into a new creation. So I live my life for Christ, awaiting the day of revelations and the prophecies foretold of Him coming the first time. And the prophecies foretell of Him coming the last time. Where there is fracturing, there will be perfection. Where there is cracking, all things are being made new. And when there is shattering, there will come a day when all sad things are being made untrue. So I will wait patiently. Salah.
There I was, standing shamefully in a courtroom, surrounded by demons on my left and angels on my right. Satan as the persecutor, holding millions of records about my life, and God sitting on a throne with a mighty gavel in His hand. I had no lawyer. Placed on trial for things such as lying, stealing, and fornication. For this was the beginning of my tribulation, for there was no reason to plead an innocent statement, for all the evidence was sitting right there with Satan. The demons smiled as tears rolled down the judge's eyes, for they clearly knew that now was the hour of my demise. But wait. In came a light shining so bright that the demons smiling suddenly jumped with fright. And the man that walked in that night was none other than Jesus Christ. Darkness departed to give way, and glory was all the angels could say. As the man that walked in that night pulled out a lighter and immediately set Satan's records against me on fire. He took the sentence file and erased my name, looked at me in the eyes and said, "Daughter, I'll take the blame." Handcuffs were placed on this man and he was thrown to the ground. The entire courtroom gasped at this horrendous sound, and the sudden ceased the beat of his heart. The man that walked in glowing had now become dark. I did this to him. My lying, my stealing, my cheating, and he took the pain and spent 3 days in the hell that I was to go to for eternity. I left the courtroom that day and there was nothing I could say. I was found innocent, for Christ handled the debt that I was to pay. This type of love is more than you could give to a girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife. This man died for me. I owe him my life. And even though my life is not at all worth it, how could you ever trade preferent for perfect? See, I gave my life to Christ and suddenly picked up a mop. The lying, cursing, cheating, all that had to stop, because my life had been bought. And it'd be a shame to sit there and do nothing but let it rot. I'm not perfect, and the will to sin has